Amateur hour, it's his first time producing. Oh yeah, that's why it's amateur hour. He doesn't know what he's doing. Oh yeah, it's amateur hour.
Welcome to Amateur Hour, where former film school dropout sets out to be a future filmmaker. I'm your host, Rob Jorosinski, and I'm so excited to be joined here by, I don't even know what to describe you as, Parker. You're my filmmaking partner. You're my friend. So much more. Confidant now. My text buddy. So many adjectives and descriptions that I could refer to you as. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. I'm so happy to be on your podcast.
I guess it's kind of our podcast, except that you're extremely busy making a movie. So I get to just sit around and think about ways to fill my time. So yeah, this is our podcast, but you just are going to be too busy and no expectation to be on weekly. But we have a very special occasion as this podcast drops.
Yes.
Yeah, we are launching our Kickstarter for Hauntology
Tomorrow or today, I guess, because it's being released today, this podcast.
Yes, and I don't think either of us really timed it like this, but obviously our film is a queer and anthology horror film, and we're launching on the start of Pride Month.
Yes. Yeah, that was your idea, which I love. It's perfect for the film.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I don't know if you feel this way too, is we've talked about so much about fate having continuing to play such a role in how this movie gets made. And I can't say if that applies to every movie, because I think every movie is a miracle unto itself. The fact to be funded, to be made,
right.
It's a miracle. But I think I think had we started any other time, we would have either had to wait too long or it would have passed us by. But it falls right. It's the timing is impeccable. Like we couldn't have planned it out any better than to start it on Pride Month.
There's that old saying that the stars need to align to make a movie. And it feels like even though we haven't started filming yet, we've had a lot of stars aligning.
Yes. And, hopefully as folks check out the Kickstarter, we're hoping to be able to share some of those announcements, some big announcements potentially on, we'll walk folks through crew signings, potential cast signings, locations, that sort of thing. So make sure you're stay tuned with our Kickstarter just for those announcements, and we'll be on Facebook Live. I'll try to be hitting that up there as well too, to share with folks when we have something important. But yeah, I'm so excited that we have this opportunity, and that I think we've come up with some. I know we're narrowing down the rewards, but I think we have some really fun things that folks will be excited about.
Definitely. I was reviewing the list last night and saw a couple things I'd like to put in there today. So nice. I think, I'm pretty excited about it. And the script thing is going to be fun. I'm going to write personal notes for anyone who does that pledge. Yes.
I think any film lover or supporter of the show, or just anybody really, like who, if you love movies, you love horror movies, you support us, you support the queer community. I think there are so many rewards in there that I think will get people excited. I think some unique opportunities and experiences. I've shared with you in the past that you were asking me what to get me for my birthday.
And did that ever show up?
It did not show up. We'll have to get in touch with that ice cream shop. What is it?
I might have maybe I entered your address wrong or something.
It'll get here eventually. I live out kind of in the middle of nowhere, so it's possible. And our mail person sometimes drops things off at other places. And if someone received a Cold Stone Creamery gift card, I doubt that I'm getting it. But I'm such an experiential person. And I think what's unique about the rewards that we're going to be providing is almost every single one of them is an experience to be behind the scenes on a film. Almost all of them. And I just think that that's such a really unique opportunity for folks to be part of the movie making process, to peek behind the scenes, experience things and updates.
I'm so excited about that watch party pledge where we're going to have, like, we can actually see real-time reactions from people watching the movie online.
Yeah. No, and we've had some, for those who are familiar with alternate ending, we do plenty of watch parties. This will be a little bit uncomfortable for me. Watching a movie that I was, took part in completing and making, but it'll be interesting. Have you had those for your shorts, for your award-winning shorts? Have you had a chance to take it in with an audience live? I know you did. You were obviously at film festival, right, so you got a chance to see audience reactions. What's that like?
Oh my gosh. It definitely leaves me sweating in my seat a little bit. Because how it usually works with the short films is they'll be in a block. So your film will be sort of randomly placed in the lineup. And sometimes I even forget where my film is. And then all of a sudden, that opening shot comes up and I'm like, oh God, this is the one I made.
Oh, yeah. So this will be a little different because you'll have the, knock on wood, we get invited to a few festivals and have the opportunity to present there. But this will be like dedicated space, Yeah.
Yeah. And I haven't had the online real-time experience. The festivals were really fun. I love doing the Q&As. And when my Haunt Me film on YouTube got a lot of views, I did get comments all the time. That was pretty fun. So yeah, I love engaging with the audience.
Yeah, one of your shorts had over 100,000 views on YouTube. And as someone who's been trying to break into the YouTube game, that's extraordinary. That is incredible. Did you ever get a beat as to how it became such a viral sensation?
No, it felt totally random because it was online for a few months and had maybe a few thousand views like my other short films. And just, I don't know, one day it all of a sudden just starts blowing up and I'm getting the comments all day. And it was really within just a few months that it did most of the view count. And then it just kind of goes back to normal view count after that. So I have no idea how YouTube works. It's still a mystery to me.
Yeah. If for folks who haven't seen it, again, have been encouraging everybody to go out. If you want to see a flavor of what Hauntology could end up being with resources, get a sense of what Parker was able to do on no budget, pretty much. Now you've run a few Kickstarters before, so you were able to leverage some of the resources that Kickstarter was able to provide, but nowhere near this scale.
Right. My previous Kickstarters were for $5,000, and then $9,000 is what we raised for Haunt Me. So yeah, this one's $20,000. This is the big Kickstarter.
Yeah. And we've talked a little bit with folks about what Hauntology is, so I don't want to talk too much more about that, but we did an origin story of how you and I met, but I think there's more to the origin story. There's the origin story of Parker as a person, as a filmmaker. And I don't know if I have, this is going to be fun for me because I don't really have that background entirely on how you came to become, a cinephile yourself, horror cinephile in particular. So would love to know kind of where that seed was planted for you.
Yeah, I think the farthest I can go back in my memory would be to the films that my brother and sister and I had on rotation at our house. And a lot of them were kind of horror adjacent, like Matilda and The Goonies. And we would watch Hocus Pocus all the time, like those kinds of family fun horror type things. Definitely. Maybe that's what hooked me in. And then as I got older and I would go to the video store, I would see all those covers in the horror section. And I wanted to rent them so bad, but I was only, 10 years old. And it just became like a rite of passage as the years went by. And it's like, oh, I could finally rent, like May by Lucky McKee, for example. That was a movie that I always saw and thought, oh, I wonder what that's about. And it became one of my favorite horror films.
Oh, very nice. And so that love of that led down a path of renting and seeing things. It was that's the movie that started it. But was there anything that started I kind of want to do this? Or how did that process work?
Yeah, I would say it was in high school. I had a classic film studies class, which is pretty rare for high school, right? That's something you would expect to see in college. But I had a really cool teacher, and we would watch some things that were horror and horror adjacent from time to time. And our final project for the class was to make our own movie. So I made this kind of surreal David Lynch style thing where my friend was lost in the woods and I was looking for her. And it was like, I became kind of lost in time. And it was like a nightmare, like what's real and what isn't type of movie. And it was pretty silly, but my class really liked it. And it was just those couple of people who came up to me after that and said, your movie was great. And I think that's what really put me on to filmmaking. I mean, that's when I started to commit more.
To be fair, I receive compliments, and I'm nowhere near your talent. So I'm happy that you took those and ran with it. And I'm noticing in your filmography that this film that you're speaking of, I'm not noticing it there. Is there a way to still see it?
The high school movie?
Yes.
No way. No, only like my closest friends like you could see it if you happen to be over and remind me. But no, I've made dozens of movies and none of them are online. So like the things that you do see on YouTube and IMDb are like my professional shorts.
Well, we'll see. You know, when you start making the talk show rounds, it'll end up on Conan or Jimmy Fallon or something like that. We'll pull it out.
I'll try to keep it hidden, but we'll see.
So you knew you had something, and you enjoyed the talent that you enjoyed doing the process that your talent brought you. When you were starting to kind of reach that high school time frame of needing to select schools, what was the approach with deciding on where to go for school and what to study?
Where to go for college?
Yeah.
So I started at Columbus State Community College just because it was nearby. And I thought I'll do some core classes and transfer those to wherever I want to go. And my mom and I went around the country to look at some film schools. We went down to Florida to look at Full Sail. We went to look at a film school in Toledo, Ohio, that had kind of antiquated methods. I just remember going to their post-production facility and instead of computers, it was a moviola. And it's like, oh, we're still cutting film here. I mean, I love film, but, I think it was time to be a little more progressive. So I ended up in San Francisco at Academy of Art University. I just loved the city. It was like my first impression of being there was it would be really exciting. It's known as like a queer mecca. So I thought, I'd make some great friends there, and I did. So I was in San Francisco for 3 years.
Nice. So funny enough, I thought about Full Sail at one point because they do such a great job advertising it. Like you get to go not talk theory, you get to go do.
Yeah.
And was that the experience at the Academy as well for you in San Francisco?
I think it was both. Nice. But I studied writing, directing, and producing, which was unusual. So in like a writing class, it's much more, just talking, like just, we're all reading each other's scripts and trying to, think, is this the best approach type of thing. And in the directing class, it was very much go do, like go out in the city and make something.
Yeah. And what I find interesting, did you have to extend go beyond the normal time frame in order to accomplish all of those various specialties? Because they are specialties unto themselves.
Well, the major I ultimately ended up with was producing. And a lot of my classes I had taken for screenwriting and directing still counted towards that. It really wasn't, I was only there for 3 years. Yeah. And I had my transfer credits. So I don't think I really had to extend too much to learn everything, but I loved it. I mean, I don't regret at all, spreading out my areas of study, because that's why I've been able to make all the movies I've done. And I think it's helping a lot with Hauntology.
Yeah. I 100% this could not be possible without your knowledge on the producing side. I mean, you're a producer on the film as well, and have been, playing the role as well as a line producer. So a lot of the budgeting, scheduling, all the things that I have a number of friends in the industry as well too, and it's just they're so singularly focused that they want to avoid all of those other things. And you have preferences too, I'm sure. Like, it's not fun doing paperwork necessarily, but I feel like you also have a little bit of interest in being very organized. Like, that's very important to you, and like the schedule. Like, even if someone were to do it for you, you'd kind of still want to do it yourself, just so you don't lose sight of the project. Because I think there's details in there that you've shared that help you visualize the project better as a director.
Yeah, and no one knows specifically with our movie, no one knows it better than I do. So if I just handed the script to someone and said, make me a schedule, I'd be a little nervous. I mean, I'm sure that, people like Victoria, who we want to have as our first assistant director, I'm sure she could do a great job. But all the little details, it's like, I don't even have to read the script constantly to make a schedule. I know like all the scenes by heart. So
yeah, you want to know the film as intimately as possible. And
yeah, I do.
And so you mentioned, so I didn't know you had like all of these other movies that I've not seen. So I'm excited at some point to get to see those. When you graduated, what was the plan?
Well, I had one of my favorite teachers in film school told me, Parker, you need to go to LA. If you really want to make it, you got to go where it's happening, start out in a lower rank and work your way up, like that type of thing. And I love her so much. I respect her opinion, but just in my heart, I knew I wanted to go back to Ohio, where I'm from, because it's so much less expensive to produce things here. I can actually do it myself. I don't have to start at like a lower rank. I can just produce things. We have all these great locations here, especially my family's rural farmhouse that we're shooting part of Hauntology at. That place is very close to my heart. It's like I wouldn't want to leave that. My parents would have to take care of it all by themselves, and that'd be pretty hard. So yeah, it's just my heart told me, go back to Ohio. You're going to direct your movies there. And I think just because times are changing, like with streaming, it's like, and the availability of equipment is more, it's easier than ever to get what you need to make a movie. So it felt like, why not?
No, the center of the movie universe, while still, likely, LA and Hollywood and all of that. My eyes have been opened to the fact that the geography of filmmaking is now universal, and particularly in the United States. There are film communities sprouting up, places like Ohio. I want to say Oklahoma as well too, where the states are doing very tax-friendly rebates and incentives for filmmakers to go there, and then as a result, these industries are just sprouting up. And I don't know if you knew how big the industry was in Ohio before we started this process of like reaching out and looking.
No, I didn't really know. And in fact, I was kind of smug in my early days of short filmmaking. I thought, well, I'm going to win every Best in Ohio award because who's making movies in Ohio? And then with my first movie, I was humbled by how many other films are made here and how many submissions were going to the festivals. But the good news is when I made Below the Trees, I did end up winning Best Ohio Director and Best Ohio Film. And that made me, I was like, there you go. I finally achieved my goal.
And that's incredible. Now that I see what's being made here. We've been on Marvel movies, just to name one, Judas and the Black Messiah, Carol shot here, and I say here as though I'm in Ohio. Movie. There's so many films, countless films being made in Ohio, and as a result, a film community centering mostly around the Cleveland area and Cincinnati areas, but now Columbus, where you're from as well. It's nice to see it working. I think, and from my perspective, those incentives are paying dividends for the community because it's bringing bringing different folks there and keeping folks there too. It's keeping talent in the state as well, like yourself.
Yeah, and like our stunt coordinator who was telling us the other day that he could go somewhere else, but he likes being in Ohio, and he's the guy here. Like everyone calls him up, and it feels good.
And I think there's no perfect path for that works for everybody. Like there is a perfect path for each individual. And while you could have easily gone the LA route and worked your way up and potentially, been making money, I think your heart would not have been there for it, because I think you just, and we were talking with our second AD as well too. And I just started getting this feeling, and which is why I asked them this question is, what's your favorite budget size to work on?
Mm-hmm.
And not that they were just saying it because it was our budget size, but they said it's exactly this size. The moderately low budget is what SAG refers to it as, between 300 and 700,000. And right. I can definitely, from my personality type, see why that would be appealing.
Yeah, it's still small enough that the creative control is more focused and you have a smaller crew size, but it just feels like more manageable. Yeah, once you get to that higher than 700,000, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, as we've been saying.
Yes. And so this has been an adjustment for you too, going from no cooks in the kitchen, more or less,
no cooks,
to having some sous chefs. I don't know if I have my kitchen hierarchy correct, but you have a lot of talented people supporting you, providing guidance as well too. How's that transition been from kind of short independent filmmaking, very limited budget, to essentially having that moderate $300,000 to $700,000 budget range at your disposal?
The most pleasant surprise has been how great our investor team is, because we offered, some of the investors will be creative and some of them will be more only in on big business decisions. But like these creative people like Chris, and even my mom, who is an investor in the film, have been like so engaged. And I feel like we're all, at this point, everything's going well. I mean, we haven't had any big disagreements yet about casting or locations. I mean, everyone's kind of on the same page.
No, it's truly been a collaborative process. And, you mentioned our creative side of the producing team, Ryan as well, just asking very thoughtful story questions that may not.
Oh, yeah. That he and I talked for like a whole hour about the script, and that was really fun.
Right. That I think things I didn't think about that lead to motivation that maybe an actor could use. Like it may not be reflected necessarily in dialogue, but it will be motivation as an actor approaches certain characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have like all kinds of little directorial ideas from the conversation I had with Ryan, like things that maybe aren't necessarily on the page, but I can, in the way that, the actor portrays the scene or the way that I photograph it, we can like enhance certain ideas.
Yeah. And I've shared this too. You and I have an odd producing director dynamic, because I guess generally speaking, and it shows up whenever the talks of the budget happen with any of our crew members or any of our producers, is, Rob, you're going to really have to watch Parker on that budget. And it's really the opposite case situation is.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, Rob wants to spend all the money.
Yeah. It's really hard to be so close for certain things and not want to go like a little bit more. But I now that we have the responsibility of, managing the investments of, 10 plus or, 11 total other folks, I've kind of been talked down, but I still will advocate for trying to get the thing that I think will be helpful, and finding a way to, raise the money like a Kickstarter or something to get those little extras. But it's nice to be in a position where we don't need the things. They're nice things to have.
Right.
But I'm curious, where does this budget consciousness come from? Where most directors need to be reined in, you're just have a lot of awareness around the budget and are cautious with it.
Right. It just comes from me producing my own films in the past, and it's like, okay, the budget is what I have in my savings account plus maybe a Kickstarter, or like maybe a little bit of funding from mom. It's like it's always been very, very limited. So I've just been, very aware of, if I overspend, if something costs more than I think, there's going to be a consequence. And now we have so many people involved, and some investors are even interested in putting more money into the film. Yeah, it's all just new to me, like this idea that, oh, maybe we have more money than I thought. And I'm trying to get used to it.
Yeah. Well, I think that it goes back to the path that you chose is you have skin in the game. I don't know if that's an off-putting phrase, but you do have a material investment as well too. So the success of the project, it's not like you're just a hired person to direct, which many productions the studio brings in, and there are incentives on the back end. So your goal is to be on time and on budget, but you're also motivated by greater success of the film, and sometimes you may want more things than are necessary. A director may want more things than are necessary to tell the story. So I could see those trappings, but it's nice to know that you don't have those, because at the end of the day, from what I've seen in the industry, there is a lot of opportunity for directors like yourself that can stay on track, on budget, on time, and create a profitable film to not have to sacrifice your vision along the way. Oh my goodness. Like, what a crazy combination of factors, like very rare.
Yeah, I haven't felt yet like we have to sacrifice a whole lot. I mean, we've found some great locations. We have, it was really fun to watch all those auditions over the last week, to see like some potential people we might cast in the movie. And just be reminded, like our eyes are so focused on some people that we would consider names, like recognizable faces, but seeing the really talented kind of local talent, that gets me excited too.
Yeah, I'm excited to get Lynn Myers and Becca Shaw on our podcast to just have a casting chat, because I don't want to get into it too much, but we've been like blown away by what people have done from local auditions.
And even the people who maybe didn't do a performance that worked for us, like sometimes just the way that they auditioned, like the way they committed, and like really shows that they took time to read the script and prepare something for us. That is so cool. Like we had one audition for a character called the Woodsman, who in the story, he's like this nude, dark spirit who kind of emerges from the forest, and he looks like he's just crawled out of the mud, and he's this super creepy dude. And we had like auditions with people in their underwear. Like one guy was out in his yard, and he had like his headlights shining on him, and he just like kind of comes out of the woods like groaning, and
it's amazing.
It was amazing.
Super humbling for me, because they're giving, and I want to compliment you, and I'm veering into casting territory, but I'm okay with it because I'm just so passionate about it because it's fresh. But I think for those who have, like myself, until this past weekend, have never cast anything or received a casting tape before, I had no idea what to expect and was just blown away by the commitment. But I think it speaks also to your writing, Parker, I don't know if you picked up on this, is every gesture and nuance, even though these audition folks didn't see the other person do it, everybody was making the same types of nonverbal cues. I don't know.
I see what you mean. Like it was just, the writing was really clear about what's going on.
The writing is so clear that if I told you that these people weren't told exactly what to do, you would think that was impossible, because everybody is doing certain gestures and hand movements and just their performances are so locked in. It just speaks to how good the writing is, even without your direction necessarily, even at this point.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I write very concisely, but very clearly. And I think that is a great help for actors, and they can focus on, there's no flowery language. There's no it's not like a novel where you're reading some long inner thought process. You just you see what's happening. You see the lines. I think that's the way that most actors like to work.
Yeah, well, it definitely came through. Well, we're getting close to the end, not the end of the making of the movie, because we haven't even really started. Like we're officially starting once we hear back on eligibility from Ohio, but really August is kind of the month where we begin, and we're looking to go all the way through the end of August next year before we hit festival season. When you look at what you hope for this film, what does success look like? I've spoken to our producers about that. Everybody kind of brought a different perspective. Is there certain metrics or certain things that you're looking at to truly consider the film a success?
Yes. The most important thing to me is that we find our audience, because I know with this specific story, there are a lot of people out there who are going to love this movie. And if they just never hear about it or never see it, that kind of breaks my heart a little bit. I'm not really thinking so much about making the most money. I'm just thinking, I just want the most people who are going to love this movie. I want them to see it.
Yeah. And I think that it's funny when you go with that mission in mind, the rest of it takes care of itself.
Yeah, by getting the most eyeballs, I guess you do get the most money too.
Yeah, and what's funny is I think you listened to that segment potentially is we're so lucky to have these investors who are here for, we were talking about experiences. They're here for the experience. That said, there is a lot of weight for me on that financial responsibility. I don't need to make my money back. Would certainly be nice. But I am very considerate and want to make sure that they're taken care of. So that's that plays into. I know you're very sensitive to that piece as well too. So
sure.
But yeah, finding the audience. I think just people knowing about this film will help that, and that's where this audience comes into play too. And as we look towards Kickstarter, which launched today, go out to Kickstarter, search up either Parker or myself or Hauntology. Look at those rewards. If you're a film lover, you're going to find something. If you just support the queer community, if you support horror films, you support us, you're going to find something there that I think that interests you. And and even if you don't, share it because you might have someone in your network who this will resonate with. And we didn't touch too much on the storyline, but the storyline itself is something that is very personal to you, Parker, and somehow I've adopted as personal to me.
Yeah. It was actually funny. I was looking today at my really old notes about the story because I was trying to remember where it all came from. And I think what really started it, I don't know if I've ever told you this, was there's an obscure Grimm's fairy tale about this boy who isn't afraid of anything. And he sort of goes off to these different scary places and he encounters creepy stuff, but he's not really fazed by any of it. And that's where the character Venus came from.
Oh, wow. That is really cool. I'm going to look up. I found out late in life that the Grimm fairy tales are actually very scary and not children appropriate. So I would be interested to learning more about that. And that's such a cool place to kind of draw inspiration from, because it's that character of Venus and the sister that really hook me. And then you have all of these fun, horror vignettes throughout and then they go on their own journey through the film too. So it's just, if you're a horror lover, this film's going to be totally up your alley. So we're really looking forward to sharing it with everybody. And this is the start of the process with our Kickstarter. So, well, thanks so much, Parker, for taking the time. We'll try to have you on, time allowing, Likely not during production days. But we're excited to keep everybody here looped in on how the process is going with Amateur Hour. So thanks so much again for the time, Parker.
Of course, it was a joy to talk to you.
Amateur Hour.